With some new information about a so-called chemical exposure that sent a Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy to the hospital back in October of 2023. Thanks for joining us at 4. I'm Lisa Gonzalez.
And I'm Cecil Hannibal. Our crews were there. This happened at the Sheriff's Office Central Station on 65th Street off of Florin Road. New documents show the deputy overdosed on drugs that he smoked on purpose.
KCRA 3 Investigates Lizzie Mitri joins us in studio to explain why we're just getting these details now, more than a year later, Lizzie.
Right, Lisa, we've combed through hundreds of pages of internal affairs documents. We've gone through video. They all come from the transparency website for the Sheriff's Office. And we do want to warn you, some of this might be tough to see. The deputy involved did recover, but this report says this has been hard on his fellow deputies, especially those who found him first. Internal affairs documents show this all started the night of October 24th, 2023, when Deputy Marvin Morales conducted a, quote, suspicious subject stop. The report says he recovered drugs in a piece of tinfoil that he thought was meth. We now know it was fentanyl. He cited the suspects and left. A few hours later, body camera video shows another deputy finding Morales passed out on the floor of a bathroom stall. The report says Morales smoked the drugs out of a pipe, then collapsed.
Morales! Wake up, bro!
The other deputy administered multiple doses of Narcan, and Morales was taken to the hospital where he became conscious again. And the report notes this caused emotional distress to Deputy Morales' partners who responded to save his life. There was a large-scale emergency response, which you can see in this video when our crews were on scene. The report says while Deputy Morales was at the hospital, samples of his hair tested positive for meth, which they say typically indicates chronic use. In January of 2024, the Sheriff's Office notified the deputy it planned to fire him for doing drugs on the job, not following booking procedures for drugs, and for lying. But before the department could fire him, Morales resigned. He said it was for, quote, personal reasons. Back to you.
So, Lizzie, what does this mean for his record? Could he go on to get another job at another department, possibly?
We checked the state's peace officer certification database, and that shows that he voluntarily surrendered his certification about a year ago last month.
Jay County Sheriff's deputy will not serve jail time after admitting he used a Facebook page meant for investigations to harass a woman he once went on a date with. Derek Bogenschutz pleaded guilty to identity deception and received a suspended 540-day sentence in the Jay County Security Center. Because of a plea agreement, he will be placed on probation, we understand, during that sentence.
Salisbury's fire chief was arrested for DUI in Ocala over the weekend. He was driving an organ transportation company truck at the time of his arrest. TV20's Misty Webb tells us what officers found.
According to an arrest report, Ocala police officers found several bottles of vodka near the work vehicle Mike Vogel was driving. Investigators say Ocala police got a call in the early hours of Sunday morning from a witness who reported Vogel was stumbling and slurring his words. The caller said he was driving a LifeQuest organ transportation truck and was parked outside of HCA Florida Ocala Hospital. Officers who questioned Vogel say they smelled the alcohol even though he told them he wasn't drinking. Officers on scene also reported Vogel's eyes were glassy, his skin was flush, and he swayed while standing. Vogel refused a breathalyzer test and was taken to jail. Vogel bonded out the same day and has pled not guilty. Mayor Jordan Marlowe says the city has been informed of the incident and has also been informed that the investigation is ongoing. The chief has been placed on paid administrative leave and an arraignment is scheduled for March 5th. In Newberry, Misty Webb, TV 20 News.
News we're following right now at 5, and this is actually from Deep River.
A police officer there now facing charges. Stephanie Simone is on the first alert desk to explain. Steph.
Aaron and Mark, we have very limited information on this right now. We do know 58-year-old Scott Wisner was arrested for DUI Saturday night after he was pulled over by police. We don't know where this happened, but we do know he is from East Lyme. Wisner is part of he's a part-time officer, in Deep River, also a retired state trooper. We reached out to find out if he still has that job tonight. We have not heard back. Of course, we'll bring you updates as we get them.
Good morning. Welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's 7:30 a.m. bright and early right here at home on the range. Thank you so much for being here today, folks. I really appreciate it. And you wanted the worst? You got the worst. That's right here at home on the range. We're going to start it out in East Cleveland, where an officer is charged with lying about pursuit and covering for a drunken dispatcher. That's the worst. Cleveland, Ohio, an East Cleveland police officer is accused of lying to his superiors about a vehicle pursuit and covering for a dispatcher who was driving drunk. Cuyahoga County prosecutor said on Thursday the now former dispatcher is also charged with a felony this week. Whoa! That's not going to go easily. Of course it will. A county grand jury indicted Officer James Covell, age 48, on 4 felonies, including tampering with evidence, tampering with records, and several misdemeanors. Okay, Mr. Knucklehead. Quote, "It is an honor and a privilege to serve the public and to hold a position of trust," Prosecutor Michael O'Malley said in a statement. Ew. Quote, "Officer Covell not only betrayed the trust of the community he swore to protect, he broke the law, and he's going to be held accountable." All righty then. We put him on the Bad Apple Report. That's the main thing. On May 9th, Covell pursued a fleeing Hyundai into the city of Cleveland. Prosecutors said Covell rear-ended the Hyundai when it came to a stop near Park Hill Avenue and East 130th Street because he's a knucklehead. Okay. The Hyundai then drove around Covell's cruiser and continued to flee. Okay. And its driver was later apprehended. Covell told Cleveland police he responded to the scene that the Hyundai rammed his vehicle before fleeing. Prosecutors said he then told the same version of events to the East Cleveland supervisor. Prosecutors said Covell's story was false. Hey, what's going on here? In a workers' compensation claim, Covell said the Hyundai accelerated in reverse and rammed his cruiser, injuring him. According to prosecutors, what's going on here? Former East Cleveland dispatcher Christopher Cotton on May 24th was involved in a vehicle crash with an RTA bus near Euclid Avenue and Doane Avenue around 2 a.m. while intoxicated, prosecutors said. But Covell responded to the scene and removed a pistol from Cotton's vehicle before city authorities arrived to investigate, but didn't inform them about the weapon, according to the prosecutors. Prosecutors said later he turned it over to the police after the officers learned of the firearm. Uh-oh. A county grand jury charged Cotton with improperly handling firearms in a motor vehicle. Court records showed that he pleaded guilty in December to vehicular assault, driving under the influence of vandalism in connection with the RTA crash. Okay. Larry McDonald, a former East Cleveland police commander, was convicted last month on felony charges for failing to report his involvement in a police chase. A Cuyahoga County jury found him guilty of tampering with records and tampering with evidence, among other offenses. He's set to be sentenced March 17th. You guys, I had no idea I was going to read all that. There's more bad apples than you can shake a stick at in that town. All right, let's move on with the show. Whoa.
Tonight, a stunning development in our sobering problems investigation. The police officer who wrongfully arrested 3 sober people for DUI has done it again.
Now, we first told you last year that we found 3 separate cases of innocent people arrested by Goodlettsville police officer Noah Werner.
Being wrongfully charged with DUI caused her to be evicted and lose her job. But the police officer who now has made 4 wrongful arrests, well, he has a new job with a new police department.
It's a life-altering problem Fox 17 News has been investigating for over a year. Drivers charged with DUI with absolutely no alcohol or drugs in their system.
Sad but true, now a state lawmaker is pushing a bill that would bring some transparency to this process. Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino now with more on the sober DUI bill.
Sir, I have not drinking.
Police body cam video from around the mid-state showing field sobriety test
I ain't that balanced. I got 75.
after test. He tested negative, but Fox 17 News uncovered more than 600 Tennessee drivers arrested for DUI despite being completely sober.
There's a problem in Tennessee.
Labrisha Beatty, a NASA engineer, experienced the nightmare in May of last year. A Tennessee Highway Patrol officer arrested her for DUI in Giles County.
He said, I want a blood test on you.
Beatty was baffled, telling the officer she doesn't drink.
I just came from planning my grandmother's funeral.
Her toxicology test confirmed Beatty was 100% clear.
Everything, of course, came back negative.
Another DUI case dismissed, but not without damaging consequences.
It threatened everything that I stand for in the community.
Since your experience, you've now spoken to state legislators about change.
There is a huge problem, and the problem centers around a lack of accountability.
Beatty sent the entire state legislature this letter.
This is
the complaint that we received.
Asking for a series of changes in DUI protocol. I spoke to Senator Ramesh Akbari, who introduced Senate Bill 1166, requiring the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to track sober DUI cases.
Yeah, I think this legislation will really help create transparency.
It requires TBI to generate a report each year detailing all of the sober DUI arrests, including the law enforcement agency.
We want the TBI to investigate and see exactly what is going on with these sober DUIs every year.
Accountability is difficult without transparency, and right now TBI says its computer system does not filter out sober DUI data. That makes compiling it pretty difficult. It was only after Representative Lowell Russell asked TBI to total up the sober DUI arrests that the agency sorted through hundreds of records individually. The result, 609 sober people arrested in the last 7 years.
I think we need to go in more depth as far as tracking the results.
Representative Russell is also working with another department, the Tennessee Administrative Office of the Courts, in building its new $75 million court case database. He tells me administrators there are working to include toxicology results in DUI cases in the new system.
Yeah, but I don't know if I got that down. If not.
So these sobering arrests can be more easily traceable.
I'm doing all that I can in this effort, right, so that I can obtain some justice for what I've gone through and what others have gone through.
Senator Akbari's bill is still making its way through this current legislative session. We'll keep you updated on whether or not it passes.
And just how fitting is a drunk deputy for today's Bad Apple Report? It's perfectly fitting. This sheriff's deputy has been arrested for DUI in Oktibbehe County. Oktibbehe. Starkville, Mississippi. A sheriff's deputy in Oktibbehe County is out of a job after her DUI arrest. Uh-oh, lady. Lady cop, Mississippi Highway Patrol arrested Crystal Howes on Wednesday night, February 26th in Oktibbehe County and charged her with DWI first, which means it's a misdemeanor. It's her first offense. She's probably just 18 years old. Just kidding. Just kidding. Allegedly. I don't even know anything about her. Oktibbehe County Sheriff's Skank Phillips confirmed Howes worked as a deputy at the time of her arrest, but she's no longer with the department as of Thursday. Okay. Well, that's all that Skank Phillips has to say about it. Oh, it's Skank Phelps. Sheriff Skank Phelps. Okay. Thank you for being here, folks. On with the show. Well, here's a flashbanger of a story. Okay. And folks, listen, cops are not stupid. Okay. They dress stupid. They look stupid and say stupid things. They marry stupid wives and their kids are stupid. All their friends are stupid. Just kidding. Cops are totally stupid. Oh, I was leading you guys down the road there. Okay. Denver police SWAT team raided wrong home, then tried to cover up mistake, the lawsuit alleges. Okie dokie. A Denver police SWAT team raided the wrong home nearly 2 years ago, held family members at gunpoint, locked 2 elementary-aged girls in a police car, and then tried to cover up the mistake in official paperwork, the family alleged in a lawsuit filed on Tuesday. Kirsty Shelton and other members of her family brought the state lawsuit against 10 Denver police officers Tuesday over the June 6, 2023 raid at their apartment in the 2300 block of Cleveland Place. Well, okay, you guys, Porky Lee's is up and walking around, which means at any second he can interrupt this whole thing. Let's get on with it. Okay, the officers, he has a bad heart and he starts coughing for those of you that are new around here. The officers went into the apartment building intending to search the apartment number 307 in an effort to arrest a violent crime suspect, Danny Garcia, who lived in that unit. But when police officers arrived, they instead banged on the door of apartment 306. Those dummies, they look so similar, 306 and 307, you know what I mean? Okay. Anyways, but when the officers arrived, they screwed up like they normally do. They banged on the home where the Shelton family lived, which was directly across the hall from 307, according to the lawsuit. So the alleged criminals like watching out the peephole going, jeez, these idiots. Okay. The officer demanded that the Sheltons open up, and they shouted, and they knew Garcia was inside. According to the lawsuit, Sharon Shelton Knight, Shelton's mother, told officers through a closed door that they were at the wrong house and that Garcia lived in 307. Okay. Dummies. The officers ignored her, the lawsuit alleges, and continued to demand the family open the door of the unit until Shelton Knight finally did so. Denver police officers then ordered the adults out at gunpoint, entered the apartment, and encountered Shelton's 5- and 6-year-old daughters, who screamed, cried, and begged police not to hurt them as the heavily armed officers came into their bedroom, the lawsuit alleges. Imagine that, you guys. Okay. Officers then locked the entire family in a police vehicle for at least an hour before letting them go free. According to the lawsuit, Garcia was arrested hours later in apartment 307. After the raid on the Shelton's apartment, officers framed the intrusion as an evacuation in official paperwork, the lawsuit alleges. Oh, here goes pork. Don't start doing it, buddy. Okay, you guys, sorry. The operations commander wrote in an after-action report that due to the layout of the apartment building, the family was contacted, advised of the situation, and evacuated for their own safety. What a bunch of liars. Typical cops. Okay, what kind of alternate universe is this? John Holland, one of the family's attorneys, said about those goofballs. He called the official framing of the incident as an evacuation as a failed cover-up, which is indeed exactly what it was. Okay, it is a robust attempt to rewrite the history and falsify it, he said. Pugnacious, aggressive falsification, typical bad applery. Okay, Holland and another of the family attorneys, Dan Weiss, said some reports of individual officers failed to mention that they even went into the family's apartment. Okay, nothing to see here. I wouldn't do. Okay, Holland and another families. Okay, the Denver Police Department declined to comment. Of course, they have nothing to say. Shelton said the police officers' actions traumatized her family and required them to get extensive counseling. The two girls are still afraid of loud noises and worry that the SWAT team will come back. They could. That's how they do it, according to the lawsuit. They have nightmares. They won't sleep in their own room now, and they sleep in mom's bed there, according to the lawsuit. Quote, the police promised an investigation, but instead covered up the raid, failing to produce their report to this day, over a year and a half after the incident. Who respects the police? Nobody. Okay, they continue to pretend that this terrifying raid never even happened, Shelton said in the statement. Holland and Weiss filed the lawsuit in the state court under the Colorado's 2020 police reform law, which does not allow officers to try to block lawsuits under the claim of qualified immunity. Woo! As they can be sued in federal court. Yes, sirree. It alleges that at least 10 officers violated the family's constitutional rights to be free and unlawful searches and seizures. That's right. All 10 of you knuckleheads are going down. Hopefully. Okay. The family was subjected to excessive force. It's rare that a SWAT team enters the wrong location, says Thor Eels. Oh, Thor. Oh, Thor. You need to watch the Bad Apple Report, Thor. He's a former SWAT member and a commander, and he's also a knucklehead. There's probably more, but we know what's going on. Cops are stupid idiots. That's the crux of the whole story. Now, let's move on with the show.
We recently learned the DWI scandal that has shocked so many of you lasted as long as 30 years. Tonight in a Target 7 investigation, we're learning the number of cases could reach into the thousands. Here's Faith Ibona.
These are the officers who have been connected with what federal prosecutors call the DWI enterprise. For years, they were making arrest after arrest after arrest.
Our community has been plagued by the effects of DWI, which are many, from the individual themselves and the addiction that they may be struggling with, to the danger that they put society in, and the terrible accidents that have occurred.
We spoke to U.S. Attorney Alex Ubaez just days before he recently stepped down. So far, his office has charged one attorney, a private investigator, and 3 officers for accepting bribes to get DWI cases thrown out of court. They have reached plea agreements.
Discovery was never turned over because it was never litigated in front of a court of law, never given to a jury to decide. Things like this that skip the criminal justice system draw it all into question, and that is the tragedy of a scheme like this.
These 15 officers account for nearly 100 DWI arrests connected to this man over the past 5 years. Attorney Thomas Clear, who pled guilty to orchestrating the DWI enterprise for the past 3 decades. Federal authorities have said they are looking at everyone tied to APD's DWI unit.
If you go back and look at the people who were involved both throughout that time period in that unit itself, I think that would give you a good sense of the number of people that could be involved in the scope of this criminal conduct.
It is possible that federal authorities have yet to scratch the surface on how big the scandal is, and those numbers could quickly grow. UMIA told Target 7 that nearly everyone who has been a DWI officer could have been involved at one point. That is thousands of cases over the decades that could have been thrown out.
If you're looking for a ballpark figure, you look at the timeline, the time that has passed, and the efficiency and establishment of this scheme to get a sense of the number of people who either must have known about it, or must have been directly involved, or must have turned a blind eye in order for it to continue.
So what does that ballpark figure look like? Target 7 is looking at the numbers of the past 30 years. So far, we have found Clear has been the attorney of record on 2,490 DWI cases. He averaged about 85 a year. 150 people he had represented twice because they had been arrested for DWI multiple times in those years. About 60% of his cases in the past 5 years have been tossed.
The scope of their involvement is broad, as we outline, and I think a lot of your work here has shown.
According to federal court documents, Rick Mendez, who worked for Clear, told FBI agents that there was another attorney involved. The scandal might have further-reaching implications. This past year, DWI arrests in Albuquerque have dropped. APD made 884 DWI arrests in 2024. There are 1,026 in 2023. That's nearly a 14% drop. For Target 7, I'm Faith Iguanu.
Target 7 is still combing through decades of cases to see how many that were dismissed or connected to Clear. So far, we have found many high-ranking officers have been connected to his cases that were dismissed. We will continue to follow this scandal.
That's going to do it for the show this morning, folks. Thank you so much for being here. You know how much I appreciate it. A lot. And the moral of the story is, all cops are bad. We prove it every day of the week right here at Home on the Range. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. bright and early. Have a great day.